Tonight, how special educational needs schools face a £6 billion funding black hole. Sky News and Sir Ed Davey visit one school where there are fears government reforms could make it harder for students to be given places.
So I'm really keen to know, is it a good school?
Obviously, you got the support that you need, and you're not just get pushed away to the side.
Have you noticed a difference in how you feel?
Very different, yeah.
Also tonight, going nowhere. The Prime Minister defiant after his near-death experience yesterday, as a potential rival gives his support.
I had a 5-year mandate to deliver the change. I intend to get on with what I was elected to do, which is deliver that change.
I'm going to do a speech. Yes, he does, and I'm going to do it.
He does have your full support.
But in another setback for Keir Starmer, his former head of comms, Lord Doyle, apologises for his past association with a paedophile counsellor and loses the Labour whip too. I'll get the thoughts of the Labour Party chair. Plus, about flipping time. After 3 decades away, Kemi Badenoch returns to McDonald's, the place she famously claimed made her working class. All that and more with our Burger King and Queen this evening. Gitto Harry and Ellie Chowns will be with us for the next hour. It is Tuesday. I'm Matt Barbet, live from Westminster. This is the Politics Hub. Good evening. Now, as I'm sure you've seen, much of the political oxygen over the last week has been taken up by the turmoil in Downing Street. And one of the perils of this, as a number of guests here on the Politics Hub have pointed out in recent days, is that other important issues have just been overshadowed. One of those is the crisis in funding for special educational needs. Our Deputy Political Editor, Sam Coates, has been investigating this and joins me now. And Sam, there has been chaos in government, in politics, but there are also parents and children worrying about this situation and wondering what's going to happen about it.
You're right, it has been abject disaster in British politics. There's no kinder way to put it than that over the last 48 hours, and really over the last month, because it's been building. And that has sucked almost all of the political oxygen out of the room. You saw Keir Starmer just a moment ago saying that he wanted to deliver the change he was elected to do. Well, one of the big crises is special educational needs. The huge increase in the number of children claiming special pots of money to help them with their development, far exceeding the budgets that exist. But this wasn't an issue in the manifesto. It wasn't really an issue in the election campaign, yet all of a sudden the government feels like it needs to do something because of the trajectory. And Keir Starmer's got some very difficult choices to make. Here, I've been investigating what they are.
Special educational needs is probably raised with me more than any other issue in this House.
A system in crisis.
We can't go on any longer. About 60 councils will fail.
Students educated miles from home.
Without that support, I definitely would not have achieved anything.
It's not working for the children, young people, it's not working for the parents.
Plans for change delayed for months. This could cost as much as the current system.
Lots more young people would be failed.
This is the story of why a £6 billion black hole will change children's lives.
You'll go now in your books. You're good.
The Rise School in West London teaches autistic pupils from all over the capital. Many of these children have struggled to cope in mainstream schools, but are now learning with specialist help. The future role for these types of special school and the pupils in them could soon be changing.
Hi, guys. Hello.
Hello. We took Ed Davey to the Rise School.
I'm really keen.
The father of a disabled child and the most outspoken on this subject in Westminster.
So I'm really keen to know, is it a good school?
Where I was before, it was very, there was one TA between 2 classes, and it was just so stressful.
There's less people in a classroom, and obviously the teachers understand you more, because obviously you got the support that you need, and you're not just get pushed away to the side.
Have you noticed a difference in how you feel?
Very different, yeah.
How does this school compare to where you were before?
Special schools focus on individual students instead of the whole class.
They make the work our level.
Danny, a former pupil, now a teaching assistant here, is an example of how the system can work.
So I've completed my degree in science. So right now I'm looking to try and do a PhD.
Do you think that is because of this school?
Absolutely. If I didn't go to this school, how mainstream was, how much happens, you know, it gets overwhelming, especially with autism. There's so much going on.
We caught up with Ed after our chat with Danny and the pupils. We've just been with those brilliant children. What did you think when you saw their view of their school?
The story they told of this amazing school was so positive, and how they had their chances, their life chances, had been changed by this school with the smaller class sizes, the specialist attention. The idea we can all mainstream children is just nonsense. We do need specialist schools.
The government wants more children with additional needs in mainstream schools in future. Fewer pupils could get dedicated extra funding through an educational health and care plan, and the right of parents to appeal a decision could be curbed. Ministers say this will improve the children's life chances. This school leader has a warning for those planning changes.
It would take an increase in funding so that those teachers' spaces are adequately equipped to meet needs. I think it would require a change in perhaps perspectives and culture in the workforce.
What do you think would happen if there was a system that just made it a lot harder for individual children to have money attached to them?
Lots more young people would be failed. Families would be failed.
If schools like this are clearly working, why is there a push for change? Here's the context. The amount of EHCPs has risen dramatically since they were introduced in 2014, and the number is only going up. Almost all types of need have risen, with autism up faster than any other. The result? High need spending has exceeded funding for years. It's why the government is talking about this now. In 2 years' time, the annual deficit is expected to be £6 billion a year. Council leaders like Matthew Hicks have been picking up the bill, although recently the government has used a loophole to take the money off their books.
So the system's in crisis for many reasons, and it's really important that we see a root and branch reform of the current system. There are many children who come into the system where the parents want to get the best for their child, and that's absolutely right. But the scale of the demand has grown. If I just look at my own county, we've gone from about 5,500 children with educational health and care plans to over 11,000 in a very short period of time.
Do you think that the government has got the stomach for this fight?
I think the government has to deal with this. It's not looked at. We can go back to 60 councils that won't survive if that deficit sits on their books.
At the moment, a school can only access top-up funding for a child with special educational needs if that costs more than £6,000. But I understand there have been discussions in government about raising that to £40,000, £50,000 or even £60,000. That means many more kids' needs will have to be met from central budget and fewer kids getting special funding for their help. No decisions have been taken, and the Department for Education insists cost savings aren't the goal. There's a political consensus that special education is broken. You were the architect of the scheme that we've got at the moment in 2014. What's gone wrong?
10 years ago, or over 10 years, the challenges felt quite different. The demand on the system is now so significant that actually both in terms of funding, but also in terms of schools being confident that they can meet that demand, there's no doubt that the system does need to change.
It is going to, if successful, reduce the budget because fewer kids are going to have specific pots of money attached to it.
I think the jury is out on that, because I think that ultimately...
So this could cost this could cost as much as the current system, the new system.
I think if mainstreaming children with special educational needs is really going to work, then I think the idea, particularly if this is what the Treasury is expecting, that there is any kind of rapid savings would be a huge mistake.
Labour MPs and parents tell me they are very mistrustful, especially after the failed welfare reforms. Ed Davey has personal experience.
People talk about my son, for example, and they've never even met him.
We are told the system is broken. Do you accept it's broken, and why, if you do?
Yeah, it's not working for the children, young people, it's not working for parents, and I think a lot of people who are in it are frustrated by it.
For the principle of money following a child with special needs.
That's a huge principle, really important.
And that's something you would fight to protect?
Yeah, 100%. Those legal rights are critical, yes, we will. The question, of course, though, to go back to your initial point, was, are EHCPs the thing that we would go to the wall on? No, but we need the legal rights protected, we need the funding, but we need to organise in a much better way. They're looking to narrowly at the thing that's in front of them. They're not looking at a transformation of the system.
There's no doubt change is needed, but these children dream of the same futures as those elsewhere.
I really want to go into being a doctor and working specifically as a paediatrician.
But after months of discussions, they wait to see if this government has found the answers.
Sam is still here, and let's also bring in our duo for this evening. Former Downing Street Director of Communications, Gito Harry, and Green Party Westminster leader, Ellie Chowes. Good evening to you both. Sam, back to you, though, on this. This is a complicated issue. It's difficult. It's a heavy lift, if you like. Is the government really going to be able to affect it in the way that a lot of those children and their parents would like to see?
Look, I think that's a great question. We're expecting the first kind of draft of the government's reforms to come in about 10 days, 2 weeks or so. Wouldn't be surprised if it gets pushed a little bit further because there's so much political turmoil. But there are two really contentious bits, as you heard in that film. Firstly, transform mainstream education into something fit for more special needs children. I think you're going to need quite a lot more money. That's what Nicky Morgan said in the film. It's what the Institute for Fiscal Studies said. Does this government really feel like it has a lot more money to give? So that's the first thing. The second thing that's a huge challenge is that in the end, in order to curb those graphs that you saw in the film, you are going to have to, in some way, pull back some of the existing rights that parents have. So possibly not talking about parents with existing children in the system, but in future, maybe fewer children getting specific pots of money to fund them, particularly in special schools. Those are legal rights. Keir Starmer would have to legislate, and that kind of legislation would be a fight with his own side. So the question is, does he have enough money, and is he tough enough? And just look at politics this week and make up your own mind.
Gito, I want to bring you on this because this is another change. I mean, the Conservatives did it a different way, as Sam was talking to Nicky Morgan about. Labour perhaps looking back at bringing kids out of those special schools back into what would be called mainstream education. But they're dragging their heels at a time when time is not on the children's side. Their childhoods are passing by while they figure out what to do about this.
Yeah, and that goes for a lot of people with needs as well as people with special educational needs. And there are two things that I think are relevant. One is AI has the potential to transform a lot of this. And I've spoken to one person recently who's working on an app that actually short-circuits what is at the moment an unbelievably clumsy system of diagnosing who has special needs, what those needs are. They're all different. What is the sort of policy for some? It's very high level of intervention. For some, it's lighter. So I think AI can help. But the other big lesson to me that every time I'm on this show, it comes back to this, we are spending too much on welfare to be able to spend money on other things that are really deserving. And until we bite the bullet and say we cannot just carry on with a situation where so much money is going out the door, then we don't have money whether you want defence cuts or more money for special educational needs. It's the same problem. We've got to sort of, you know, get over our reluctance to reform the welfare state or every conversation about worthy recipients like special educational needs or for the right, cutting taxes, spending more on defence. It's out the window. It's academic. So we've got to have a grown-up conversation about that. And as for Keir Starmer having the authority to do anything controversial at the moment, I suspect we're going to be discussing that later on.
Hold that thought on the welfare state, because we will come back to it. Ellie, what do you think about this sort of chopping and changing and parents in limbo situation at the moment?
Look, it's clear that the SEND system hasn't been working for children, for parents, for teachers, for anyone in the system for many years, and reform is really urgently needed. I support what the government talks about trying to do in terms of ensuring that there's more support within mainstream education for those kids for whom that can work. And I've seen fantastic examples of this in, for example, Leominster Primary School in my own constituency. I think, though, there are many children who do need places in special schools. They need that specialist provision. And that's something that you didn't talk about there, Sam. I'd argue that's a third issue, that we're not paying sufficient attention to. So again, an example from my constituency, the government just recently before Christmas refused to fund the building of a new special school to provide support for 80 places for kids with autism spectrum disorders and severe learning difficulties. Now, at the moment, we've got a shortfall of 300 plus places in Herefordshire. That's only going to grow, but the government's refused to do that. And as a result, those children are having to travel out of county to much more expensive private places that cost 4.5 times more on average than a local authority run placement. It's 20k for a local authority placement, it's 90k on average for a placement outside county, not even counting the travel costs and the harm that that does to kids. So we need to kind of step back and start this discussion by thinking, what is it that every child needs to fulfil their potential? And we can do quite a bit of that while making financial savings by the local authorities having the funding to do it, as well as providing more opportunities for a wider range of kids to integrate and to thrive in mainstream schools.
Striking the balance is very difficult, isn't it? You give one kid what they need in a mainstream class and you're perhaps taking away from what all the other kids need in that class. There's going to be an impact whichever way. And the bigger picture here as well, if you speak to a psychologist, they'll talk about the over-pathologising of behaviours, the idea that here's the question, is it just more of these conditions, more of these behaviours are being diagnosed, or is it more people are presenting with them thinking they need help when perhaps they don't?
Undoubtedly, there are more kids needing support, but I think it's really harmful to kind of be saying that this is essentially people inventing the need for support. You know, I meet families in my constituency surgeries every week who have kids who've got really serious needs. And, you know, another family approached me just yesterday. They've got a child with autism who clearly needs support. Every teachers recognise that, their GP recognises it. They're still struggling to get the EHCP that they've been waiting and fighting for. There are huge delays in the system. So we need to start by saying, what do children need in terms of the support? How can we provide that most cost effectively and in a way that meets everybody's needs? It's not a zero-sum game. If you provide inclusive education, that's going to benefit everybody in the class, not just a single kid. And we've got to then recognise that if this needs funding, we need to do this not in a kind of patching it up way, which is what's been happening at the moment, government having to say, oh my goodness, there's this huge hole in local authority budgets. We've got to look forward and recognise the demand that this places on the national budget, still relatively small in the grand scheme of things, and make sure that we fund that.
Gito, your thoughts?
Well, I grew up on the campus of a mental hospital. My father's a psychiatrist, so I recognise some people have very serious needs and need a lot of help. At the other end of the spectrum, there's a high level of diagnosis of children who are in massively privileged schools, who have, in order to get into those schools, passed massively demanding tests, and they are being diagnosed with conditions that allows them to have extra time in exams where they perform even more outstandingly well. So I think when we look at the numbers, it's worth bearing in mind that there are some people here who have massive needs and some people here who actually, I do wonder whether, you know, they have special educational needs or they are, you know, taking an advantage that's available to them.
I think we've got to be really, really careful about
the kind of implication. Of course we do, but we've also got to not overlook that, because you are basing everything on the basis of the hardest case scenario, and that has financial implications. And if you look at the other end and think, do these people need that much extra, or do they need to be taught in a slightly different way? And it's the latter, with a whole load of people over here, and artificial intelligence in the hands of very clever people can help them at very, very minimal cost.
Look, we can't trust AI to generate truthful information on the internet at all. No. We certainly can't outsource diagnosis of special educational needs to AI. We need people who know what they're talking about, and we need to recognise the wide spectrum of needs and stop trying to suggest that some people are inventing their conditions or families are inventing conditions.
What I can tell you from personal experience, from a child with this, the joined-up thinking is completely lacking. There might be statemented in primary school and the secondary still doesn't get the statement. So then you're back at square one, trying to persuade them that actually they do deserve this kind of thing. Whereas some people will say, oh, my child is this. Well, have you found that out for sure? Oh, well, no, we haven't, but we just know. That's what people are talking about, I think, as opposed to they're not undermining the definite needs of people who deserve them.
I completely agree on the joined upness,
Yeah.
and this is why we need a system that works for everybody, and we need to get rid of the delays. At the same time, we need to we need to speed up the system so that people aren't forced to spend years fighting a battle for their child, and in the meantime being told, well, you're inventing it because you haven't got a diagnosis, when they've been trying to get the support and diagnosis they need for all that time.
I need to speed up and bring Sam back in, by the way, on this, because, look, it hasn't happened quickly, Sam. We think it's going to happen in the next 10 days, 2 weeks. That's going to take the form of what? A white paper? And what can we expect?
A white paper is the earliest stage of consultation, and I would expect the easy bits to be in the white paper, an outline of what the government might do. But here's the challenge. If you have a child that has needs and those needs are not met, then quite often they drop out of the system altogether and they can face an entire lifetime worth of benefits and an inability to work. The challenge for the British state in special educational needs is the same as it is in loads of places. Can the Treasury, can the Prime Minister take a whole approach to somebody's life? And if that means spending a little bit more up front in order to save later on, isn't that the goal? Or does Wild just not work like that?
Yeah, that mindset shift from cure to prevention, I suppose. Thank you very much indeed, Sam. You're watching The Politics Hub. Coming up in a moment, the PM comes out fighting again after a tricky few days in Downing Street, insisting he will lead Labour into the next general election. More on this and other political reaction next.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
Who's funnier?
Being a Sky News journalist.
A special edition of The World with me, Yalda Hakim.
Pakistan has the right to respond.
You're like, what?
Historic day here today. Congratulations, this is a huge moment. But what happens now?
We'll come on to the Prime Minister's Day in a moment, but first, Lord Doyle, who was previously Sir Keir Starmer's Director of Communications, has been suspended from Labour over his links to a councillor convicted of sex offences. Our chief political correspondent, John Craig, is here with me now. Tell us more, John.
Well, Matthew Doyle, as he was announced as a new Labour peer in a list of 25 Labour peers on the 10th of December. It was when the Prime Minister was trying to rebalance the House of Lords. Tories only got 3. He took his seat on the 12th of January. Now there are calls for him to lose his peerage altogether. But as a first step, he has been suspended, although he says he's voluntarily given up the Labour whip in the Lords, although he says he's happy to say he's been suspended. It's over his support for a man called Sean Morton. Now, Sean Morton is someone who was convicted of child porn up in Scotland. He was a councillor in Elgin, in Murray, I think, isn't it? Yeah. There's an MSP has been suspended as well up in Scotland. The SNP have been going after Matthew Doyle for several weeks now. Stephen Flynn has been leading the onslaught, saying he should lose his peerage.
On this programme, John, he's
Indeed, I remember
it
well, yes. And he's a tenacious campaigner, as we know. Anyway, Matthew Doyle has told me that he's very apologetic. He says, I want to apologise for my past association with Sean Morton. His offences were vile and I completely condemn the actions for which he was rightly convicted. And he goes on to say, at the point of my campaigning support, Morton repeatedly asserted to all those who knew him his innocence, including initially in court. He later changed his plea in court to guilty. He said that he should have ceased support ahead of a judicial conclusion. It was a clear error of judgment, Matthew Doyle says, for which I apologise unreservedly. So he's held his hands up, said he made a bad mistake. It looks as though the government has responded to pressure, possibly from the SNP, but also there's been quite a lot of press coverage, not just up in the Scottish papers. The Daily Record's been going after Morton. Sunday Times had a piece at the weekend. And, of course, it's yet another problem for the Prime Minister, somebody who was his Director of Communications, a veteran press officer from the Blair years, Ito will recall, another embarrassment. But Matthew Doyle, to be fair, has said, look, I made an error here, I made a mistake and I'm sorry.
John, thank you. Stay with us, because the Prime Minister today insisted that he isn't going anywhere in his first public comments after calls for him to resign. So Keir Starmer joked that it had been a busy week and said he would never walk away from the country he loves. Speaking this afternoon, he was also asked about Scottish Labour leader Anna Turley, who called for him to go yesterday, as well as Wes Streeting giving Sky News messages he exchanged with Lord Mandelson.
What's happened over the last few days is that we've pulled together as a party and been absolutely crystal clear about the fight we need to have. And that's the fight on behalf of all the people in this country who don't get the respect, the dignity and the chance that they deserve in life. That is the fight that we are in. That's who we're fighting for. I'm their Prime Minister and this is their government.
Are you going to patch things up with Anna Turley? He tried to take you out yesterday. You want him to be First Minister of Scotland. It's a mess, isn't it?
Well, I've got a huge respect for Anna Turley. Obviously, he made his views known yesterday. But I want to be really clear that I'm 100% supportive of Anna Turley to be the First Minister in Scotland. He'd be an incredible First Minister, and I support him.
You can forgive and forget what happened.
I support him 100% without reservation.
Will you lead the Labour Party into the next general election?
Yes, I will. I had a 5-year mandate to deliver the change. I intend to get on with what I was elected to do, which is deliver that change. I'm really pleased that we've got a united cabinet behind me in that fight.
Your Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, seems to do what he wants. He's published these texts between him and Lord Mandelson that include criticism of your government. Are you tempted to sack him?
Well, the issue of text messages and all information that's being gathered as a result of the humble petition, humble address last week, that needs to be a managed process, both in government and obviously there's a police element to it. So we need to do it in that managed way so that the right information is released. We need to be totally transparent. That's what Parliament wants.
Have you told him to wind his neck in? Because it wasn't managed, was it? He just acted unilaterally.
Well, I do think that we all need to ensure that we're all acting together in this, because all the information needs to be pulled together. We owe it to Parliament to be totally transparent about it. We need to liaise with Parliament and with the police to make sure we get the process right.
And you've got an economic strategy, to be clear, because he was suggesting in the text that there wasn't one.
Let me be very clear about the economy under Rachel Reeves, our Chancellor, because she is turning the economy around.
Well, this came after the PM chaired a meeting of his cabinet this morning, all of whom rallied around their leader yesterday. In a readout from that meeting, we're told that Keir Starmer began by thanking his ministers and said they were strong and united. Also out and about today was the Mayor of Greater Manchester, Andy Burnham, still in that job. Sky News caught up with him before his speech at a Resolution Foundation conference.
Mr Burnham, sorry, quick question.
To do a speech. That's okay.
Very quickly, does the Prime Minister have your full support? Is there anything you'd like to say to the Prime Minister?
I'm going in to do a speech. I will answer. I'll answer
yes
questions
or no?
inside.
Does the Prime
I'm
Minister
going
have
to
your
do
full support?
to do a speech. Yes, he does, and I'm going in to do.
He does have your full support.
Quite a pregnant pause there, wasn't there? Conservative Party leader Kemi Badenoch, meanwhile, said today that it's a matter of when and not if Keir Starmer vacates number 10, and told Sky News that his top team has given him what she described as a stay of execution.
I think that all that's happened is his MPs have given him a stay of execution because they are terrified of losing their own jobs. His party leader in Scotland, who doesn't rely on Keir Starmer for his job, said the quiet bit out loud that the Prime Minister should resign. So it is only now a matter of when he goes, not if he goes. His position is clearly untenable, and I think that we need to acknowledge the fact that the country is not being governed. Nothing is happening.
Let's bring our duo back in for this evening alongside John Gittott and Ellie. Ellie, over to you. You got those saying it's a matter of when, not if, and they would say that, wouldn't they? Because they want it to be when and not if. You got those saying they fully support him, but you have your suspicions. So how do you calibrate where things are for the Prime Minister right now?
I mean, it's clear he's a man on his way out, and he should be. He should be gone. Clearly, Labour MPs have decided just not to kind of push him over the precipice quite yet. Perhaps they're thinking it's useful to have him there until after the Gorton and Denton by-election or until after the local elections, at both of which Labour are predicted to do really badly. But it's clear that he's a man on his way out. He's lost the trust of the country. In fact, he lost the trust of the country even before the Mandelson scandal. But now, having, you know, it being absolutely clear, he appointed Peter Mandelson, knowing that he still had this ongoing relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, the paedophile. You know, his position is untenable, and it is just a question of time.
Gitto, you've been in Downing Street. You've, been through the rough and tumble with a Prime Minister. Can he ride this one out?
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I agree, Mandy Gate, if we call it that, was kind of a trigger.
Scandalson, I think.
Scandalson. But he was kind of dead man walking before then, because there's been so many U-turns, there's been chaos in his cabinet, there's been chaos in the kitchen cabinet, in the back room. Nobody knows what he stands for. He's a lousy communicator. And, he's heading for electoral annihilation in Wales, where another man called Keir was the first man ever to win for a party. So it was not looking good before. So the only caveat I introduced tonight, because I've been predicting his downfall for a week or two, but the only caveat tonight is this niggly little human thing, that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And there's a little part of me that thinks when he walked into the cabinet today and he looked at Wes Streeting and he looked at Shabana Mahmood and all that, and in their eye contact, he was basically saying, yesterday, you could have killed me with a feather. Well, I'm still here, and it'll take a lot more next time round. And I think politics is, in the end, animalic. And I wonder whether the fact that the moment did not happen yesterday will weirdly give Keir a chance to rebuild. And in a funny sort of way, not only are some of the public out there watching feeling a little sympathy for a man, who was nearly brought down by his own people, because that is brutal. I know what that feels like. But a man who actually gets out of bed and bounces up today. I don't think he deserves to be there. I think he's a lousy Prime Minister. He deserves to go, and his party want him to go. But in a funny sort of way, in that animalic dynamic at the core of politics, he's a little bit stronger tonight in one sense.
Animalic dynamic.
You tell you work for Boris Johnson, can't you, using words like that?
I couldn't even say it quickly. Very interesting points, both there, John. Look, speaking to people who were in that meeting last night, you were just outside in the lobby, speaking to them again today, they definitely, to a man and woman, are saying there was a change in him last night. They were talking about it being raw, him being impassioned, the kind of thing you don't really see of Keir Starmer, or the rest of us don't see, but that's what they're saying.
He came out fighting in his speech to his MPs. Clearly that worked pretty well for him. And I thought that we just saw the interview he did up in Hertfordshire today, but before that, I listened to his little speech and he said similar things, but he's quite relaxed. I mean, we've all seen prime ministers do these events where they do a chat and then it's one of these things where they go around and sit on 2 or 3 tables and chat to people. Yeah. And he looked pretty good. I mean, clearly, I think a burden has been lifted from his shoulders because he thinks, oh, thanks, I've survived that dreadful day yesterday. And he will try to carry on. Let's see what happens in these elections that are coming up. What he doesn't need is any more dreadful U-turns because they have damaged his standing. He doesn't need any more disastrous decisions by Rachel Reeves. She's got a spring statement early March. You could argue that he's one error away from being dumped. He's perhaps one cabinet resignation away from being dumped. I mean, it was the beginning of the end for Boris Johnson, as I recall. It was Sajid Javid and Rishi Sunak resigned within about half an hour of each other, didn't they? Yeah. One Wednesday evening, as I recall. Yeah. So the cabinet at the moment is united, although clearly by publishing his WhatsApps, his emails with Peter Mandelson, Wes Streeting is doing that to get that out of the way for when he decides to run. Can I just give you a funny little postscript on the turmoil in Number 10?
You can, of course.
There was a meeting today of the Intelligence and Security Committee, which is this powerful committee that's been given the job of vetting all the documents and stuff, the Epstein files, and the PM referred to the humble address last week. And there's a lovely bit in the statement where it says, the Cabinet Secretary had been due to attend, but was unavailable at the last minute. Well, that's Chris Walmold, who we are expecting. He's going to be the latest person out the door in Number 10. Yeah. Cabinet Secretary.
Yeah, well, it begs the question. He's kind of without a bit of a team right now. He's got to assemble something quick smart, hasn't he, for the umpteenth time?
Clearly, as you point out, is yet another shuffling of the deck chairs. I mean, how many times can you shuffle them before the Titanic goes down?
Yeah. Of the staff, it's not the cabinet. I mean, it's, the comms director and the chief of staff and, it's all that.
He's looking for number 5 to do the job that I did. He's looking for number 3 to be the chief of staff.
Do you fancy it?
Absolutely not. Not for him. Though, actually, it could be a sort of, kill from the inside. Yeah. But no, one thing about the cabinet, it was, Boris would use the term hostage video. When you are held hostage and somebody's holding a, knife to your throat and asking you to read out a script, those kind of forced comments on Twitter saying, of course I support the Prime Minister, that wasn't genuine warmth, and he knows that, I think.
Exactly, they would say that, wouldn't they? But all the time that this is going on, yet more Westminster psychodrama, people across the country are thinking, what on earth? Yeah. We want a government that functions, we want a government that looks after people, we want a government that deals with the cost of living crisis, and yet more scandal. It's just not good enough. And we're going to see, I think, in Gorton and Denton by-election, we've got an amazing Green candidate there, Hannah Spencer. She is demonstrating what it really means to stand up for local people, to talk about the things that matter. That's the sort of politician we need in Westminster.
And, of course, you can see a list of candidates on our website.
Nicely done.
Well, I had to do it because you mentioned it. So there you go. By the way, psychodrama is a banned word in these parts. Animalic is fine for the time being. The turmoil surrounding the Prime Minister is sure to feature heavily on our late-night programme. The Wrap tonight from 10 o'clock. Here to discuss all of today's big stories and the best of tomorrow's papers will be the political commentator, formerly of this parish, Adam Bolton, and journalist and broadcaster, Sonia Soda. Right now, though, you're watching the Politics Hub. A bit more to come after the break. We'll get to the thoughts of the chair of the Labour Party, Anna Turley. Now, of course, Ellie's going to champion a Green candidate, but we should now show you all the candidates who are standing in the forthcoming Gorton and Denton by-election. There you go. Oh, there's a few more as well. So there you go. All the candidates who are standing in that by-election coming, in a couple of weeks' time. Now, it has been a busy week here in Westminster. It's only Tuesday. The Prime Minister seems to have survived those calls for him to go. And a little bit earlier, I spoke to the chair of the Labour Party, Anna Turley, about this, and also asked about the suspension of Keir Starmer's former Director of Communications, Lord Doyle, from the Labour Party. I know you're keen to talk about other things like local energy generation this evening. I'm sure you'll say what you want to on that score. But isn't this just another government policy right now? You want a champion that's being overshadowed by all the challenging events involving the party?
Yeah, it's deeply frustrating. I mean, I think back to last week where we voted to lift 500,000 kids out of poverty. We had a 10-year cancer strategy. We were putting billions of pounds into Pride in Place to lift people's local communities. We've got this fantastic energy announcement today. We want to focus on the things that really matter to people: cost of living, putting more money into their pockets, making sure people can save for a family, that they've got secure jobs. These are the things people care about, and it's been very frustrating that we've had a week of political drama, which none of us want to be dealing with. We want to get on with the job in hand, not least the Prime Minister.
Sure. Self-inflicted, though.
Well, I think, you know, politics is always full of high drama, and the polls aren't where we want them to be, and we're first to acknowledge we've made mistakes. And the Prime Minister was very candid at the Parliamentary Labour Party last night in saying, look, I made a mistake. He apologised, as he had done to the victims, to the members of the party. And there was a contrition and a rawness and an honesty there that I think people really responded to. But moving from that, he then set out such a passionate and convincing vision of where he wanted to take the country, of what drives him, that the support from the Parliamentary Labour Party was overwhelming. There was, as I said, a roar when he came into the room. And I think people really want to see their Prime Minister battling and focusing on the things that we want to talk about.
Well, why has it taken a crisis for that to appear, and for it only to appear, of course, amongst friends in the Palace at Westminster?
That's a good question. I think we all would like to see that Keir last night. People said we'd like to bottle that and send that out to the public, and I hope we see more of that.
Why was it so good, though? I mean, from your point of view, why? We had Tan Desi here last night saying similar. We heard from Lucy Powell saying similar as well. What was so different that the rest of us are not able to see at the moment?
I feel like he was unleashed, and perhaps, I mean, Keir is someone who I think is really driven by a sense of public duty, and that's, you know, his background in law, and I think perhaps sometimes he's, you know, the responsibility and the duty that he feels very strongly perhaps might make all of us in politics feel that we have to perhaps restrain ourselves a bit. And I think, as I said last night, I saw him unleashed, and I think we're going to see a lot more of that. I hope to see more of that battling Prime Minister, that fighting Prime Minister, but fighting for things that he really cares about and the reasons that brought him into politics and many of us into politics as well, which is to make the country better for the people we represent.
But now we see the former number 10 comms chief, Matthew Doyle, who was given a peerage only last month. He's been suspended from the party because of his links to a convicted sex offender, Sean Morton. What do you make of that?
Really pleased that he's been suspended, have the whip withdrawn. I think it's really shocking. And from what I understand, I wasn't involved in the process, but what I understand was that Number 10 were not aware that he continued to campaign for this individual. So I think now it's really good that now it's come to light. They've taken swift action. And this is part of the Prime Minister said last night and has said since the weekend, this is a reset moment now. We've got to get things right. No more mistakes like this.
Hang on. A reset moment. Why do you need a reset moment for this kind of thing to happen? Whether reset or no reset, this kind of thing clearly looks wrong and the action looks right.
But because the government weren't aware of what this individual had been happening, and just like with Mandelson, we've got to strengthen the vetting processes. We've got to take this far more seriously. And I think Keir, you know, feels that more than anyone. He wants to get this right. We've come in with a big commitment to clean up politics, whether that's banning second jobs and strengthening the independent commission. These are things that all of us as public servants feel very, very strongly about. Politics, particularly in the Labour Party, politics should not be for the wealthy, for the powerful, for people who want to evade this kind of scrutiny. We've got to get this right. And Keir's made that very clear this weekend, as have all of my colleagues across the Parliamentary Labour Party.
It's been reported that women MPs and ministers were already asking for Matthew Doyle to go. Were you one of those women asking for that?
I think the women in the Labour Party have felt for a while that you know, we want to make our voices more strongly heard in Parliament. There has been lots of...
Did you make yours heard?
is not something that I was aware of. I wasn't aware of his situation. What I have been clear about is that I want to see more diverse voices in Number 10 and around the cabinet table and hearing differences of opinion.
Yeah.
And I think the Prime Minister respects that. And I think we have seen a change of culture this weekend. He has come out very strongly and said to the PLP last night, I want to do better at listening. We're one team. We've got to work together and take this forward.
I'm sorry to labour this point, but the other voices are making themselves heard. We heard Stephen Flynn from the SNP talking about this very particular issue a few days ago. Others in Scotland have been saying the same. So again, why the delay with the Labour hierarchy in doing anything about these issues? There are echoes here of Mandelson again.
Well, I think, again, what we'd been told was not the truth when that decision was made. So, look, the investigation is happening within the Labour Party now. The Prime Minister said, enough is enough, I'm taking this step, and he was very, very clear now that he's done that. And I think it's right to it that he's done that.
Do you think Labour has a problem? And perhaps some men in the party are just too trusting, perhaps even gullible, perhaps not curious enough when it comes to asking questions about and dealing with these extremely serious issues that are involving sex crimes, paedophilia, terrible stuff.
Absolutely not. That's not the case. I mean, you've got a Prime Minister who, as the Director of Public Prosecutions, was taking paedophiles on, putting them behind bars. Our commitment in our manifesto is to halve violence against women and girls. We've got a Labour Party that is absolutely strong, and you'll have heard us in the chamber from across the backbenches as well, across the cabinet. We've got people sat around that cabinet table absolutely determined, people like Jess Phillips, strong voices, Shabana Mahmood. People are absolutely adamant that we are taking on these kinds of issues in the public and wherever it rears its head, and the Prime Minister is absolutely at the forefront of that.
Matthew Doyle is having the whip removed. Should he remain as a Lord?
No, I don't think he should. That's my personal view. And just like with Peter Mandelson, we're going to be making it easier for people who have particularly undertaken criminal offences to be removed from the Lords. We don't have that power at the moment. He's not committed a criminal offence. But, I just think people who have got this kind of record or have not been clear and transparent, there's no place for them in the Lords. That's why we're also reforming the House of Lords, because for too long I think it's been a bit of a, the vetting hasn't been strong enough, and it's absolutely down to us to redouble those efforts.
Matthew Doyle has, of course, put out his own statement, his own point of view on this situation. Listen, just final question, just to finish off on a slightly different note. We've been looking at the situation for kids with special needs this evening. They and their parents have been waiting and waiting for more clarity on what their futures are going to look like from the government. It was meant to come in the autumn. We're waiting for it now. When's the clarity going to come, and what's it going to look like?
Well, it's really important that we get this right. Special educational needs is probably one of the most important issues that we face in this country. When I came back in as an MP in 2024, I couldn't believe how many more parents were raising this with me from when I was in last time as an MP. Every single surgery, a parent raises this. So we know the system is in crisis, as you said. So it's really important that we listened to parents, that we listened to teachers and schools, and that we got this right.
But months have passed, childhoods are passing, and you still haven't done anything about it.
Because we've undertaken a huge consultation, and I took part in that myself. I had an event in my constituency to hear from parents, because too often parents have felt like they've been battling the system and no one's been listening. So we had to make sure the system listened to them, their voices were taken right to the heart of government, and I'm really looking forward to what Bridget Phillipson, our Education Secretary, is going to come forward with, because every single child deserves the best opportunity in life, and that's what we as a Labour government are here to do.
Anna Turley talking to me earlier on. You're watching the Politics Hub. Still to come, she's loving it. Burnham and Badenoch puts in a shift at McDonald's 30 years after she last worked at the fast food chain.
I witnessed the complete destruction of a place linked to my childhood memories.
This is insane.
I'm Yusra Al-Bagher, Sky's Africa correspondent based in Johannesburg, South Africa. I felt awe when we saw the mountain gorillas in Rwanda.
We call him the king of the jungle. This is the alpha silverback.
Sky News, get the full story first.
There's a fresh look to your news from 10 on Sky News.
It's a new show called The Wrap, every night of the week.
We'll still bring you the day's biggest stories,
but with more lively debate,
more in-depth commentary,
and more of what you need to know.
Plus a look at what's making tomorrow's headlines.
The Wrap.
Everything wrapped up for you from 10 on Sky News.
We're so used to seeing you with Rob. What's it like doing this kind of stuff when he's not here?
Yeah, I miss him. He just inspired me to be a better person. He's shown us what living looks like in the toughest and most difficult of circumstances.
I'm Greg Milam, and I'm Sky's Chief North of England correspondent.
He had a beautiful death. This is about a dying person's choice to die peacefully when they want to, on their terms.
Go ahead, back white jacket.
Deborah Haynes from Sky News. He called you Daddy earlier.
No, he did it very affectionate. Daddy, you're my daddy. Thank you.
Leicester is on its knees.
They've ripped the soul out of my factory, and there's nothing left.
It is eerily quiet.
It's constantly on the brink of capacity.
There's overcrowding. It's not a new thing.
It's rough.
There's nothing to hide. Why aren't international journalists allowed in?
Are you worried about escalation?
Of course I'm worried about escalation, which is why my focus is on de-escalation.
The region, I think, is on edge because they are anticipating a retaliation.
Iran retaliates for the US attacks.
Founding principle of the alliance, that an attack on one is an attack on all.
Could Putin attack another NATO country within 5 years?
Burnham and Badenoch has made a return to her teenage job behind the deep fat fryer in McDonald's. She put in a stint at the fast food chain today alongside her Shadow Chancellor Mel Stride on a business visit. Now, the Tory leader famously and controversially said in an interview back in 2024 that she became working class when she was 16 because she worked in the restaurant. It seems her time flipping burgers didn't exactly all come back to her. She was jokingly told she was too slow by a member of staff. The opposition leader was tasked with making a sausage McMuffin and a hash brown.
I understand that you used to work at McDonald's.
I did in 1996, so 30 years ago. Oh, he's not taking out though.
Are you eating?
Yeah. See, I haven't forgotten everything. I still remember. Do you need me to do any more? I'm going as fast as I can. I'm doing four.
Definitely got the job.
Yeah.
Order for Kemi.
Thank you.
There we go.
Number 10.
Enjoy it.
Of course, she's not the only politician to have put in a shift, sort of, anyway, in the fast food chain in recent years.
Well, I'm looking for a job, and I've always wanted to work at McDonald's, but I never did. If you don't mind, I want to work the French fry counter.
Absolutely.
Okay, how much are you paying me?
How much are you paying me?
I love McDonald's. I love jobs. I like to see good jobs.
I mean, he didn't even get to the hash browns, did he? Let's bring in our duo for this evening, Gitter and Ellie. I need to confess, when I was a teenager, 17 in fact, I did work in McDonald's on the A55 in North Wales on the chicken and fish station. 6 months, 0 stars. Did either of you do funny jobs like that? Ever flipped burgers, Ellie?
I haven't flipped burgers, no. I cleaned toilets in Asda.
That's terrible.
It's like didn't have the perks of the of the free chips on the side. I worked in a cafe as well, and yeah,
cleaning
did
toilets.
Quite a lot of washing up.
I didn't have to clean toilets in McDonald's. I did have to walk down the slip road and pick up litter, but only if it was McDonald's branded litter, which I vividly remember. Gitter, what about you?
Warehouse, car park, bookshop. Various bars, Holiday Inn as a waiter.
And when you were a youngster, did you do any jobs like that?
And this really tough job in 10 Downing Street, funny enough. That was the hardest of the lot. You've got to admire her for going back in there. A hash, boom, boom. So, no, it's good to see her back there. So, no, she seemed quite
I admire Mel Stride even more, because he probably never did that kind of thing back in the day.
I don't think he's ever been anywhere that side of any counter, has he?
No.
The only point of her visiting that place was to get you to put it on the programme tonight. I mean, what actual substance is there? And I mean, frankly, the claim,
not going to argue with that.
As you've reminded us, the utterly ridiculous claim she made 18 months ago that flipping burgers 30 years back made her briefly working class.
Yes.
I mean, anybody who is working class would be absolutely outraged by that.
I wasn't working class at 17, and when I worked at McDonald's, I wasn't working class either. So, yeah, I mean, that's the thing about this guitar, isn't it? I mean, you know,
it's
a bit of exposure.
It's semantics. I mean, literally speaking, you are working, so you're in the working class. You're not the idle class, and you're not the sort of wealthy, you know, kind of idly wealthy.
You win the McNuggets prize for that one.
Yeah, well, I don't mind that so much. What I think is the serious point is I don't think Labour, considering the clue should be in the name, that they're meant to be a party for working people, labouring people. I don't think a lot of them understand what real work is like. And Keir Starmer talks about being the son of a toolmaker, as if we all work in factories these days. Kemi's just been to what is the real experience for most people who are working class at the moment. They work, you know, in places like that, often with very limited job security, often not necessarily at McDonald's, but often in work where they don't know whether they'll be needed tomorrow, next week. It's the reality. Some of them like it like that, some of them don't like it like that. But I'm not sure that Keir Starmer even gets the so-called gig economy.
It's very quick. You can't just dip your toe in, can you, and say that's it?
I find it a little bit rich, though, for a former Tory Director of Communications to kind of be telling Labour who is and isn't working class. I mean, let's let people who are representing themselves and their communities in the House of Commons.
When it comes to being Director of Comms, it's all about the lingo and the semantics. And he did say, what was it, animalic? What was it again?
Animalic is a good word.
It is a good word.
Isn't it animalistic?
We will leave it. We will leave it there with McDonald's and Big Macs ringing in our ears. That's it from us tonight. I'll see you tomorrow at 7. Up next, it is of course the UK Tonight with Sarah, Jane, me. Bye for now.